Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the Away Day Show. Again, one man down. It seems to be a common occurrence. Flynn's now sick.
What's it, one of the last five maybe?
I think one of the last five altogether. And even that one, this episode actually did good. The ones that were alone don't do as well than when we're all together, the three. I think he should be fined. We'll hold him accountable for this.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you, mate? How did you enjoy the weekend? Interesting weekend of football?
Yeah, didn't get as much of a look in as normally due to a bit of study.
Bit busy this week,
Yeah, a bit busy this weekend. Looking to the weekend coming up to watch a few more games. However, still got like a look into a few different games and all the speculation going on between the media, Gary Neville, Carragher, VAR, some of the outrageous calls, I should say.
Yeah. It's a weird weekend for Premier League football, a very strange weekend.
Yeah, it just looked like those blokes there were trying to like cover their ass pretty much.
Sort of, yeah.
Like, I don't know, obviously when the problem I think with today's media in comparison to the media 10, 15 years ago is the media today has a connection with the Premier League, has a connection with the clubs.
Yep.
So you see a lot of the time like they don't go in as hard. That's why a lot of people actually like to and prefer to tune into YouTube podcasts and stuff like that, where you look at the likes of Ben Foster and Goldbridge. Yeah. Because they say it how it is. They don't have any underlying connection to what clubs, the PL,
all that rubbish.
Yeah, all that rubbish. Whereas I'm not saying they do, but from an outsider's point of view, it looks definitely like they have some sort of like underlying understanding with the Premier League to not go too harsh with VAR and a few other topics itself. Like,
it feels like scapegoat, right? Like, not scapegoat, but like not trying to, throw too much harm in one direction, right? They toe the line a lot, especially the Sky Sports stuff, which everyone sees, right?
The one thing that I thought was just hilarious, because they can have their opinion on the offsides and they can have their opinion on if the ball was out. Like, obviously, to me, that was out, but like you can have your opinion on that. You don't know because the ball actually doesn't have to be touching the line. It's where it goes over the line.
Yeah.
So you can have your opinions on that and stuff. The one thing that was like outrageous, I thought, was the fact that Neville defended Rodri's with Højlund, but he didn't say that Gabriel was pushed. Yeah. It was the exact same mirror thing. It was just like what he did was, whatever the VAR decided, I agree with.
Yeah, let me just tick the box of what I get paid to do. Yeah, and it's strange. And, that probably was going to be what I learned from the weekend, but I guess I'll change it up a little bit because that's one of the things. We'll definitely touch on this VAR stuff much later on. I'll change it. I'm going to say different. I still reckon... Obviously, last night, one of the most ridiculous games of football. Wow. I still reckon Tottenham look the goods. They still probably look the better side at 2-1, even 3-1. At 2-1 and 3-1, they still look the better team. They had the chances. Son's shot was saved. The goal, Dyer's non-goal was one of the best finishes I've seen.
Not to take it out of proportion as well. People need to understand that Mickey van der Ven and Maddison were also subbed at 55-minute mark due to injuries.
Here is our point. These two are one of your best two players.
Plus, you're getting Romero and Udogie out with red cards.
So your whole back line goes. Dyer returns at centre back again.
Yeah, after what? I think he hadn't got on the pitch.
I don't think he's played all year.
I don't think he'd got on the pitch and he'd been sub once. He hadn't even made the bench.
It's going to be a tough next 3 weeks. Van der Ven will look to be probably over 3 weeks, but Romero and Udogie will probably be Udogie will be 1 week. Romero will be 3 weeks of the straight red. But yeah, I'll touch on the game more in depth later on, but I was so impressed the way they just went at it. Still, you see all the memes about the high line, but that's just the way they are going to play, right? Yeah. They took the game on. They weren't afraid. They could have been winning 3-2 or even tying 3-2 with the way it was going.
Yeah, Dyer had a disallowed goal.
That's inches. You've got Son's chance, and he could have scored another day. Vicario, some of the saves he was making.
What a keeper though! So under the radar, and it really shows because it happens a lot in football. Now, keepers are nobodies pretty much until they get to the 27, 28-year-old mark. It's a whole different... obviously you have some exceptions, many different exceptions, like the Courtois of the world and many others, like Casillas and all that kind of stuff. But you look at keepers, they're a total different game to the outfield players. Outfield players, realistically, once they hit about 21, 22, they will get better.
Yeah.
but the difference between they were 21 and to 30 is very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we got people like Martinez, who was a third choice goalkeeper at like 26.
Now look at him.
Now he's gone, just got with the year. We'll touch on Martinez later.
Yeah, that's a bit questionable. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's been an interesting way for goalkeepers again. But yeah, I was super impressed. Tottenham should have been impressed with Vicario. Let's jump into the first game, which we both had a lot of vested interest in. Fulham, Manchester United. United get up 1-0. A really scrappy game.
Well, yeah, a very scrappy game. But as well, we go back into it. And this is becoming a regular occurrence week in, week out. It's becoming a regular occurrence. Game in, game out. Not just every week.
I hated this call.
What? So Maguire did not interfere. And he did not interfere in the play at all. What? Because he was blocking a player?
No, but that's the argument. But the player was behind Maguire. He wasn't going to get there anyway. Maguire didn't get there. So how is he going to get there?
Exactly.
And even then, he stuck his leg out to have a crack at the ball, gone nowhere near it.
But it's not like he interfered with the goalkeeper either.
Yeah, he's not like he's deliberately gone and blocked him off. Yeah. And then, he's just taking away as well for, as a neutral, you take away from great goals. I touched on a few games later on. But on Saturday night, there were some great goals that came from offside plays by this tiny inch.
People underestimate how good of a goal that was as well. Garnacho's.
What a cross.
That is just fine margins at its best. That is...
And McTominay, take a hit, but then come like a fox on the box and bang, on the mark. No one else was ever near him because he pounced on it. It was a proper, good goal.
Yeah, exactly.
But one little tiny speck on the screen, and it goes.
I don't know what to say because that one there, in comparison to a lot of the other calls we've seen, isn't as black and white.
No.
On the rule book.
No.
I think definitely it's a goal, but... If we go to the rule book, I don't think it's as black and white.
It's one of those subjective decisions. Does he impact on the play? That's simple. In my eyes, that's how it comes down to it. And the fact that VAR's intervening on subjective matters is something that I don't agree with.
Well, we had this conversation back in last week. As I've said so many times, clear and obvious.
Makes it simple that way. Or just go with it. Because right now, this weekend, we've seen, even if they do get it right, games are having 5-minute pauses so old mate in the box can look at every single player and make sure he's not drawing the line.
But he still gets it wrong. If you're going to stop a game for 5 minutes, you get it wrong. I'm going to go back to the exact same comment I said last week and reiterate it. I don't think VAR needs to completely go, but VAR needs to go off silly matters. So all matters in regarding close offsides.
Yeah.
All matters regarding But
here's where I come to it. If you say close offsides, the linos get them right most of the time anyway. Why don't we just go back to the linos?
But this is where it comes back to as well. So, okay, let's go trust the refs and go, okay, the one was out at Newcastle, but then both of them were called in. Both Rashford and the Newcastle one.
Yeah.
So we look at that and we go, okay, well, at least umpires are actually making more consistent decisions naturally.
Yeah.
So just because of natural occurrence.
But on that point though, the reason, the fact that umpire didn't give it out of play and let the play continue was the reason why the goal stood, because there wasn't clear and obvious error. So if there's no clear and obvious error and it's this tiny
why
inch,
does Rashford's get ruled out then? It's the
apparently,
exact same
apparently
thing.
It was obvious. But that's my point though. If they're going back to the umpire's original decision in this case, why not just have the umpire? Because apparently he's made the right decision anyway. That's the point. Why overcomplicate it with a 4-minute wait with this VAR trying to angle because the camera doesn't line up perfectly?
We've just talked about this so many times.
It's ridiculous.
So what you're basically saying, and I know it's not exactly these as straightforward as what I'm about to say, but what you're saying is all Premier Leagues prior to VAR were in a sense kind of flawed.
Yeah, but that's what we saw. That's what
which I completely disagree with.
But that's sort of that whole mistake of the referee is sort of what I grew up when I grew up introduced to the league. That's sort of what it was about. Whereas we got lucky with Rooney being his shoulders leaning offside, but we got the goal because the line. That's sort of what you live for, right?
You get some. Okay, even if you get a couple more this year, you'll get less next year, and in the whole lifetime of 20 years, it comes back to even. If you want to keep it though, keep it for offside.
But no, I don't want to keep it. I'd rather
I'm just saying.
I know. I'd rather it because if it's going to even itself out with VAR, why not just even itself out with non-VAR? Because it probably would do the same thing. At the end of the day, I think the Lions do a pretty good job. They've probably been discredited because they've been told to do these different rules to match for VAR.
Yeah.
Quick touch back on the game. Another great performance from Maguire, McTominay in the first half, and Onana, I think. Some really, really smart saves. Fulham had a great start to the second half. And to be honest, if it wasn't for, they probably won the first 30 minutes of the second half, but that final, so 10 to 20 minutes, United were looking at not their best, but got on top of the game again. And what a finish by Bruno Fernandes. I think it's an underrated... The keeper gets a hand to it, but I think the finish is just too much power, too much precision. You can't stop that.
Well, especially a week after you're hearing all the pundits going in on him about his captaincy. Which, if I will quickly bring up, I do understand to a point. Because I think Bruno is our captain. But I think the reason he's our captain is because no one else is captain.
And that's a fair point. And that's why I sit as well.
I think the pundits, again, go on about the most random, outrageous calls. Okay, so you go, Bruno shouldn't be the captain. Okay.
Who's the captain?
Who do you put forward? You're not going to put Rashford there.
No chance.
Onana's just been in the club. Maguire just got stripped of it.
And Maguire looks better without it.
Yeah, exactly. Then you got what?
Johnny Evans?
Casemiro, you can't give it to. I actually don't think you can name me one player. You know who should have been the captain, I think, if he was at the club? De Gea. But but he's not at the club, so that's irrelevant.
No, yeah.
So I don't get it. I don't get why they go in, especially as old Man United players who support the club, go in on something that is impossible to change.
There's obviously something that they all don't like about Bruno because they all do it.
Yeah, it's called the English passport.
Yeah, see that? And you know what it also is called? It's called clicks because we're talking about it, because everyone on every podcast talk about it, and it's on every single news front cover. Because Bruno Fernandes, like him or not, he sells like tickets, you know what I mean? He gets you clicks, he gets attention because he's one of those players. He's a great player.
Correct.
That's why they try and pick on him. He's a great player.
He's one of the only players that is guaranteed in the team every week.
Yep.
He puts his heart on the sleeve, which at the moment you've seen by posters and billboards up in the stands that the fans don't believe that.
Yep.
So he's probably the only one that's been there for over 2 years, puts his heart on his sleeve, and plays week in, week out. I'd say the only one.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, now that De Gea's gone, I don't think there's anyone else left.
He's the only one. So when they go, I know it's for clicks and stuff, but when they go in on him,
so harsh.
I agree. In comparison to other captains, is he the best captain choice?
Yeah.
No.
Here's where I put it to sort of round it and make it sense. Similar to my Rashford point, if we're going to be a Premier League winning team or up there competing, I don't think Rashford's there. Same as I don't think Bruno would be a captain in a Premier League winning team. So
exactly.
At our current state in time, like you say, maybe Rashford should be playing and Bruno should be captaining. But if we're going to be a team like Arsenal or even to a lesser extent Liverpool and their progression,
or even a Tottenham,
the captain probably won't be Bruno Fernandes. That's the best way to put it.
Again, you got to find a stalwart who's going to be there who's going to be there and playing week in, week out. The only other person you could even think of that was there was Casemiro, but you're not going to give him the captaincy, especially after how Bruno did last year with the captaincy. And Casemiro's been there for a year. Really, you probably would have liked to, in somewhat, if he was fit, maybe at this stage, maybe look at the likes of Varane.
But the only other person I can think of was probably Luke Shaw, but he's injured.
Yeah, exactly. Luke Shaw again.
He's been there for 8 years, something like that. So that's.
But Luke Shaw to me doesn't seem like he's
not the shouty guy.
Yeah, he's not the shouty guy.
Yeah.
But then Bruno's the shouty guy. But then I completely agree. When you're on the pitch, you don't want some guy putting his hands up and stuff when you're losing.
Sometimes you do though. If I was a player, I don't mind that because it's shit, this guy doesn't like what we're doing. Let's go and change it. And
no, but he wasn't putting his hands. I agree. If he puts his hands up at his teammates, he puts his hands up. He whinges and stuff. And I'm not against the whinging, but in a moment when you're 3-0 down and you got to be
the leader.
Yeah, the rock. You got to be the guy lifting everyone up.
Yeah.
You've got to be that guy. You don't want to see that guy who's supposed to be lifting on the ground. You want to see that guy in the clouds.
Yeah,
pretty much above everyone else.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. But yeah, obviously a Martinez to win. Second year in a row, United win it in stoppage time.
Yeah.
I threw my Nando's. I got Nando's all over the floor because I threw the chips up in the air. So that was exciting. But yeah, made my Saturday night a little bit less stressful because
it was great for my Saturday night because I was studying.
You were studying. You would have made it 10 times worse.
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to it. I had it on at the same time while studying, and the disallowed goal.
It killed me. It killed me.
Yeah, it killed me.
And yes, to finish it off, at the point in time we went 6 as well, so progress is there.
Yeah, and everyone's still having a go. Like I made a point to Flynn actually. I said we're 6, and he goes, "Yeah, but that's not where you're supposed to be." And I think we all understand that.
But at the end of the day, we are 6 points off Arsenal.
The best Arsenal team and a Liverpool team who's apparently back at it again.
Yeah, so when you think about that, we get a few good results in a run.
While starting, the team we started on the weekend would had about 6 or 7 starters out.
Johnny Evans for the team of the year, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, the last thing I will touch on, though, Maguire shows the exact reason why he's a quality, probably Conference League team player, that he's really good against everyone, apart from teams that are real ball playing, that type of thing.
But I don't want to drag it too long, but I think Maguire's not too bad against the ball playing. I do think he's not good against teams that use pace on the flanks. Whenever there's... And because we now play so high up, and Wan-Bissaka was good but bad in this game because he got so high up the pitch, but you saw Maguire to go across and become a right back.
Yeah,
it's teams that can expose us.
I'll actually
on the
say
flank.
one thing before we finish it up. I don't want to comment too much maybe on that City game because we talk about Maguire, and Maguire wasn't good, but he was next to Johnny Evans. If he was next to Varane, I'm sure he would have looked decent or something.
Yeah. Next game, Brentford-West Ham, and I was double watching because I didn't have much on Saturday night, so I double screened. This is one of the games I watched, and thank God I did. Brentford 3, West Ham 2. Actually, I want to start on about this. I put this at the top of the show. My predictions are looking awesome right now because Brentford are 9th and Forest are 11th. I think I had them both exactly where they are currently.
Yeah, well, I had Forest 9th. And I had Brentford 13.
So we're back on track.
But West Ham.
But West Ham are slowly seeing. But don't get me wrong. West Ham and Brentford, they put on an absolute show. And both teams who like to counter attack didn't counter attack. They just went, I'll have a go, you have a go. And it was a great game to watch. Morpay finally scored. I think it was 14 months. I think he scored a Premier League goal. He got on the score sheet. Bowen got on the score sheet with an absolute belter. And then it was Kudus with this semi-scorpion/bicycle kick, which was ridiculous. So that goal was awesome. West Ham could have gone up 3-2 themselves, but Antonio took one off Kudus at the back post. Brentford ended up winning. I think a Collins header in the end, 70th minute. But yeah, this game back and forth, end to end. But Brentford now 3 wins in the trot, wins back at home again. I feel like this is what the Brentford expected going to the season. It's that home dominance. It's playing forward at the back again, which I think Brentford need to go and play. And it's these midfielders like Norgard and Dams and all these guys that you don't really talk about, but they just played out of their skin in this game. They were just great through balls, and Burmo just kept having opportunities. Yep. I just think Brentford have finally nailed it down. I was worried before going into the week, are they going to miss Tony to the fact they'd turn into a counter-attacking team? And don't get me wrong, obviously against the big teams they will, but a game like West Ham like this, I was like, this is a big occasion. Let's see how they play. They played in the front foot. They played in possession. And I'm just happy to see Brentford be back to that Brentford side because that's what I like to watch. I like watching Brentford without their best. Obviously for West Ham and your self-predictions, it's tough, but I don't know how much you watched the game, but West Ham weren't bad at all.
No, I think maybe looking at what we expected after our match week 4, match week 5, there was some hypothetical that they could finish in the European places like the 7. I don't think that's going to happen. But as I look at them the way they play in comparison to last year, I'm still very confident it'll be at least top 12.
They're much more creative, and where the problem came was second half they just lost creativity. I don't know what happened. It just didn't click. But first half, Kudus, Paqueta didn't play. That's a big loss. Bowen's the first guy. I think he's good in the first 6 away games, the first player to ever do it. So he's nailing it as well on the flank. I think what they need is a striker. Antonio just, as much as I love him as a bloke, he just is a good guy.
Well,
he's not good enough.
Investment they tried to pick up Scamacca. That was obviously because of Antonio. They didn't have complete and utter trust in him. So they spent 40 million on that. It didn't work. We've seen in the past that movements from the Italian league to the English league don't really work.
Even if they pick up a Tony from a championship team, I don't know who that is currently, but someone that just will just score you goals.
But is there anyone in the championship right now that's going and
That's
scoring
the problem.
week in, week out?
It's a lot of wingers scoring in the championship.
Mitrovic and those type of people that
that's what they need though. Just a proper just number 9 that doesn't do much else because they've got so much creators. Ward-Prowse, Suchek's like playing ridiculous. Bowen, Kudus, Paquette. Like there's so many creators, but there's no goal scorer. So you got Bowen needing to score the goals, Paquette needs to score the goals. Kudus is ripping out worldies. That's the only thing for West Ham, I think, I guess to round out the game is West Ham probably need a little bit more creativity and a striker. Brentford we're excited for. I think the next few weeks could be exciting if they can get a roll on. The next game, we touch on every week, I feel like the same thing, but Burnley 0, Palace 2. This was just so stereotypical. Like Burnley had 70% possession, triple or double the amount of shots as Palace. They lose 2-0. Like, it's just... Yeah. I'm just getting tired of saying it. Like,
saying that Palace have been a really good team this year and they are a team that has been, like, haven't had too much of the ball. I'm not saying they're playing the old ways, but they don't have too much of the ball still. And I think, again, we just keep reiterating it. And this is the problem with some of these teams like Burnley and like Sheffield United. And I know some of them have picked up points and stuff, but... We keep reiterating it. They're playing a brand of football that they pass it. Do you know what this brand of football basically reminds me of?
Go on.
Who was an old Man United manager?
God. Are you talking about Van Gaal? Yeah, Van Gaal. Yeah, back.
I know Van Gaal was a bit negative that it was always in our own half and stuff. But we had all this ball, but there's nothing at the end of it. It's just like it's like we're trying to play the Barcelona, the Man City, the Arsenal way. But we go, okay, get to the forwards. Okay, we start again. It's just like, it's like they've decided randomly that get a possession drill, but they don't put goals on either end of the pitch.
They just pass it around,
Yeah, they must go, the manager must come out and go, okay, boys, we're doing an 8v8 possession, and then goes, no goals.
Just pass.
Our goal is to do 20 passes.
Yeah, most passes wins.
Yeah, most passes up.
But you're right, because the first goal came from I forget the defender's name, but he tried to dribble back and then just lost the ball.
Yeah.
And it's just 67% possession here and 17 shots. So they actually were creative in this game.
Yep.
I think Palace had 6 shots and they had 23% possession. And yet they go and win 2-0. And you know what? It was somewhat comfortable because despite all the shots Burnley were having, you're right, it doesn't feel like there's any clear-cut chances.
But I don't get really many that are, as you just said, clear-cut, in the box, tap-ins, balls whipped in. A lot of their shots they're getting is winger cutting in and stuff like that because it seems like they're not creating anything. And that's the problem with these teams. These teams, they don't have the player quality to get in that final third and pass it around like that.
Yeah.
If you see all the goals the teams near relegation score, even when you look at the likes of Everton and stuff, all their goals are, we want 1v1s, 2v2s. Not
individual brilliance,
1v1s, 2v2s because we're countering and stuff like that. For them to sit there and go, okay, winger gets a fullback overlaps, winger tucks in, all this type of stuff. Striker makes a run near post, winger comes back to penalty spot. All this stuff, it works when you've got the likes of Odegaard, Saka, or you've got the likes of Haaland, Foden,
Alvarez, all those guys,
Yeah, it works. But when you got people that are borderline Championship, Premier League on the cusp of either or, you can't be playing this game and thinking, we're going to break down 8 or Premier League defenders, 5 or 6 of us.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at all the goals, and you even look at Luton. Luton are way worse than Burnley, but they're getting more points purely on the fact of no matter who the players are,
they look more likely.
2v2s are going to be easier to score than it's going to be to score a 5v8. When you go tic-tac, ball into the box, you're expecting Haaland to be there or something like that.
It's tough. Koleosho for them, the younger talent, he looked really, really good. But again, he had no help. They put more balls in the box in this game, but once again, there was no one really there to head the ball in.
Yeah.
And their midfielders are looking incredible because they're playing a lot of sideways and cross-ball passes. But you're right, it just ends to nothing. And I guess you look at the ladder now, Burnley on 4 points, equal with Sheffield United after they got their win. But Palace, 15 points, equal with Chelsea, 1 point off Brentford, 3 points off United, sitting nicely in their safe position of 11th. That's where they like to be. So they had a great start to the season and another classic Crystal Palace counter-attack win.
Just to touch on it lastly, it looks like there's already a relegation battle, and it's already distinct. It's a bottom 4.
It seems like that way.
Well, there's a 5-point gap between Luton and Everton now.
Everton are cooking now. Everton looking good.
And even you look at the teams above Everton, Fulham ain't going
down. They're not dropping in there yet.
Yeah, and neither is Wolves. No. And then we got Forest. Then we're at Forest.
And there's no way Forest going anywhere near that this year.
The only way one of those teams survive is Bournemouth go down. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think Bournemouth go down.
I think they fix up. I think they'll get good. But saying that, we'll touch on all the games later on, but the relegation teams this week have all had a great weekend.
Yeah,
other than for Burnley. Let's go into something new. We're going to left backs this week, but without Flint here and everything being sort of short notice, I've gone and created some really high tech here. True and false paddles. This cost 10 grand, these paddles, so you got to keep them good. So true or false questions. We've got 5 this weekend based on the football. We have a bit of a chat about them. Starting off with VAR is making the game worse. True or false? True's all around. True's all around.
Pretty self-explanatory.
It's self-explanatory, but I just need to touch on this thing. So I went and had a bit of a rant Saturday or Sunday where I posted it.
I saw it. It was a great rant.
It didn't make much sense. The one thing I missed that I really want to say here is what I touched on earlier on. I think the timing as well, and Postecoglou touched on it this morning. He feels like he said he was just standing there because it takes 5-6 minutes now because they're so nervous of stuffing up a line or stuffing up, or we forgot about that in the play, or what's this rule like, that it's taking so long. So you went through a cycle. The start took a while, then we went really short. They missed some things. Now we're going back to you're sitting there for 5 minutes. And get decision right or not, I'd rather you get it wrong if I don't have to sit there for 5 minutes, because United was, 3.5 minutes? Last night, the Tottenham game between the goal that Caicedo scored, that was overturned, and then the red card, and then the penalty being taken, was 7 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's not even that fact, though. If you're going to get the decision in favour of the team that's going to score the goal, okay?
Yeah.
That's all right. But if it goes the other way, you're at such a disadvantage because you've just had all the momentum and you've lost it as well.
Take it away.
People don't understand how much momentum plays in sport.
Massive.
It is so big. It's not a joke. You see so many times in the PL where you go 30 minutes of this team, 30 minutes of that team. Well, if you cut that 30 minutes that team had to 5 minutes and now the other team back on top, look how that changes the game.
Yeah, and it's massive. And it's just the fact the fans are just getting, in the stadium. Imagine, obviously I was there for this year with the out of bounds play. Yeah. And luckily I looked back and saw what you guys were saying. But when you're at the ground as well, it's wait, what's going on? You just sit there waiting. And it just takes all what you're saying, the momentum, but it takes the vibe out of the game as well. You're celebrating a goal to 3 minutes later, ruled out. Yeah, well, it just ruins it, I think.
Last thing I'll touch on, I don't think anyone will be annoyed, pissed off, whatever you want to call it, if we get rid of VAR and then they make mistakes. Because the reason people, like we've said so many times, get so angry is, how can you have this technology that's wasting time doing this, doing that, and still making mistakes? Right. No one's going to care. You have that one against Newcastle that was called in. Fair enough. They don't have someone sitting there with a camera. If you got someone sitting there with a camera,
fucking do your job. Do your job.
That's like we've seen someone going to rob a store. Okay, you're gonna be less angry if
pedigree analysis here.
Yeah, you're gonna be less angry, and as the owner of the shop, if there's no camera there. But if there's camera there and you can see clearly, and then you go, oh, I don't know who's robbed the shop, and the guy's face is just sitting there like this in the camera,
and the security at the front door as well, and they're not gonna walk in and walk out.
Yeah, but if you've got no camera, you go, oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it's just great out. There's your pedigree moment of the week. That's the Antonio pedigree moment of the week. But yeah, to finish it, that play, the fact that 3 things could have been no goal.
Well, they all were as well.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sick. I'm sick of it. We can talk about it all day.
Let's move on to the next one.
The next one, company will be sacked before Christmas. True or false? Now, we talked about this a lot on this show and my moods change week by week, but I'm going with a false.
Okay.
Yeah, false.
I'll go quickly
You took why?
I think Burnley want to, but I just think that the way Burnley has played the last 18 months, for them to sack him, they're realistically going to bring in a manager of the type of Sean Dyche.
Yep.
So for them to do that, they then changing their whole game plan. And we've seen it with Everton and stuff, but they were already a little bit defensive. that is going to take... all your players are playing this thing, and now you want them just to sit there. Like, it's a total different type of conditioning.
Yep.
It's a total different type of playing the game. Like, probably need different players. I just think they're hopeful, although I don't think it is going to be the case, that eventually, with all this possession, with all these chances, that they'll eventually start to... like click and score goals.
And that's the thing. I think the click thing, I keep saying week after week and hoping eventually it comes true. But they've got a lot of players new. They've got a system that's hard to adapt to. For Burnley's sake, I don't think they'll stay up. But I think, and for company as well, I think all you have to do is just adjust. It's almost like a slider in FIFA. Just tick it back a little bit. Like just take it to 50% possession. Just even it up.
Yeah.
Because then you might get the counter-attack goal. And play now, instead of playing all these technical players, play one pacey winger or one pacey like direct striker and see how it goes. Because right now they're playing this side of the spectrum. If you go and change the match, like you said, you're going all the way back to here, which is going to cause absolute havoc. Because the new players they've brought in, none of these guys are workman-like sort of players. They've all ball playing, high pressing sort of players that play on the edge of the box.
Do you think if he just kept his championship team, he'd be doing better off?
I think he would. Because again, it's similar to the players, but just not of the level. But they're all connected together. They've seen each other. Again, there's parts that are still there.
A huge different level.
A huge different level.
Yeah.
I think the best result for them is they go down with company. They pick up a few players on the rebound payments. They come up next year, the following year, and hopefully they're better prepared to take the league on. I know it's hard to keep players when you go down.
When I say that, I mean December. I think if companies like bottom 2 in like March,
you still think he goes?
Yeah, I think he goes. I'm just saying you give him more time than December.
I think the same thing. But I think he'll get better throughout the season, but not good enough to stay up. You see what I mean? Like
I think he'll either click or not click, and I think if you click, there's enough. You'll clean up enough points.
If they click to a degree that I'm thinking in my head, they probably just scrape out.
What do you probably need? You need 35.
I think but in this league this season, I think you might need a little bit less. I think there's points getting spread around.
Okay, so less.
I reckon 33, 32.
Okay, so 33, 32. You'll get to, by Christmas, they'll get to 12.
They're on 4.
Yeah, they'll get to 12.
Oh, if they get to 12, he's 100% staying. I think...
let's say they get to 10.
I reckon he's at 9.
Okay, yeah.
9 gets him a job, I think.
Yeah, but have they... They still got to verse Sheffield United.
I think they're got some stinkers.
I feel like they'll beat those two teams because...
they'll just out-football them.
Yeah, they'll out-football them.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because we'll come back to actually at Christmas, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Because it'll be interesting because he's one of those managers that really, really on the teetering at the moment. Building on it, what we're talking about, these relegation sides, the lowest Premier League points record of 11 will be broken this season. True or false? So a team will go below 11 points this season. You ready?
Yeah.
False. Yeah. I think it's tough because of the weekend.
I reckon if we went back 1 week, I would have gone true.
It'd be true 100%. Yeah, it'd be true 100% of the time. But
it's 11 points. You'd hope that Sheffield can pull another 2 wins.
I think Sheffield, if they can model that game with what they did in the weekend, which is find a team on a bad day and like just counter attack.
Yeah.
They can get wins. They can get draws.
Exactly. They only need 2 more wins and it's basically done.
And it's done, yeah. And they'll get draws, I think, to teams around them.
They'll get 2 wins and 2 draws. I'm confident.
Yeah. And Luton looks like we'll touch on Luton Liverpool a little bit later, but just like a headline thing, they actually looked good against Liverpool. They looked like what I expected them to do at home versus the big teams.
Well, they've actually got a weird team because they've got a lot of like Premier League players who were...
These old guys now that come back.
Yeah, old guys coming back and like young academy players from like...
all these clubs that like rejected them basically, yeah. It's a strange sort of... Again, I think when they just need to like gel as well.
Yeah.
A lot of new faces there. Our fourth point, Brighton will make Europe next season. True or false? Yeah, false.
I think there's too many teams, and we're even looking now at the likes of... I don't think United and Chelsea are going to go make top 4 or anything, but I'm still convinced they finish top 7.
One of them will be in the top 5, and I think 2 of them make the top 8. So as such...
No, I'll make top 7, I reckon.
You're going to make 7?
I think both of them make the top 7.
I reckon they both make the 8. I don't know about the 7. Because what... 8,
I think Aston Villa drops out.
You know what I saw on the weekend, I think the thing about Brighton is what we're seeing a bit of fatigue and similar to what we've been seeing with a few clubs.
Europa as well.
The quality, maybe they're just pushing these newer players too much. Like there's a lot of new faces in this team. You got Dahoud, Adringa, Bonanote's playing more minutes. Like Billy Gilmore's starting to, I think, plateau a bit. Like he had a great season last year. He's on a plateau. There's just so many new faces, so many new styles. They're changing their striker every week as well.
It's just weird.
It's just like
no consistency.
I
know what he's trying to do, but
it doesn't work though.
No, it will work to a degree, but I don't think with the competitiveness. I really think that the top 7 is so like stapled. It's not a joke. I think Villa is the only team that can crack into the top 7.
And you're right. This year the quality seems to be jumped back up. Liverpool back.
I just look at it at the point of Chelsea will get the points to get top 7. So then you got the question mark over United. And whether United are going to finish 5th, 6th or 7th, I'm convinced they'll finish low of 7th because we're just looking at, with the players they've currently got right now, although they're getting dominated by good teams, they're pulling wins consistently.
Just out the bags.
Just with a terrible team on the park. Once they get over the Christmas break, they will find...
Injuries come back and stuff.
Exactly. I'm convinced they'll get a string. Will that string of games be enough to get them top 4? Probably not. I probably doubt it quite heavily.
Well, top 5 now as well.
But then you even look at it and you go, if you can keep 6 points away from those two, you just don't know what will happen. You see that United are very much capable of getting onto a string of games like last year.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for Brian, now thinking about now that we were talking, maybe they got a cup run in the FA Cup. Maybe that's the way they get Europe. Because... you know what? The way they play football, they could chop up in a cup.
I agree. I still think as Brighton manager, as Brighton players, as Brighton fans, you still very much
focus on.
Yeah, think that you can finish top 7. I'm just saying it from
I
you still have to have very much confidence.
And as the club they play, they would think
they're still probably the 9th team.
Yeah, I think So what is it? It's 8 teams make Europe or 7?
7. Oh no,
there will be 8. It will be 8 now because the 5th champions. You never know. I just think...
if Villa drop points, they take it.
Yeah.
I forgot it was the 8th. Actually, saying it's the 8th, I'd still say no, but it's much
close.
50-50.
I think Villa just got too much quality. I think Brian just need another summer to restock the money. You know what I mean? Use some of that money they've got. But yeah, that would be close. It'll be very tight.
Okay.
The final point, which is very topical, which we just started talking about just then, United will make the Champions League. True or false?
What are you going?
I'm going true.
Okay, true. We've got the same every single one.
Now, hear me out. This sounds ridiculous the way I was talking a few weeks ago, but this will probably change week by week, but I'm encouraged by results like the weekend where, God, it wasn't great. God, it was ugly, but you know what it felt like? It felt like last season again, where we might not play the best football, but at the end of the day, we'll get the 3 points. We'll get a point. And I think that was big for us last year. When you took back to Manchester United last year, despite some of the good games being there as well, there was a long period during the back end of Christmas where it was just Marcus Rashford and Inshallah. Like it was just literally just 1-0 wins, Casemiro headers.
I was actually thinking of a different period. So if I look back to last year, I think it very, very much mimics the start of our last season. So if you go back to
it probably does.
If you go back to last year, the only difference with the start of last year was we had that Arsenal and Liverpool win.
Yeah.
So the Arsenal and Liverpool win gave it to the fans but the Arsenal and Liverpool win also counteracted our first 2 games, which were completely dreadful.
Shambles.
But I look at it and I go, okay, that Arsenal game we played, I'm very, very that very much could have gone either way.
That's 2-1 to us. If that VAR doesn't. VAR.
Okay, you look at the top, but then you look at all the games surrounding it. So you look at the Arsenal game and the Liverpool game last year. Then there was 2 other games which we won completely the same way that we've won 2 games so far this year. We went to City then after so basically like we did this year, we had 3 or 4 again in a row.
Yep.
Went to City.
Got our asses kicked.
Kicked us back down.
6-3,
Looked like we got ourselves back up. Hopefully tomorrow night we can get a nice win against Copenhagen.
Yeah, must win a Champions League,
Yeah, so that's a must win. Hopefully, Højlund can get on the goal sheet. But when I look at it, if we can just get through this tough period, if we can pull wins with the current squad we had, you already look at the likes of Wan-Bissaka's back, allows Dalot to play left back now, which I think he definitely starts over regular on a left back until Luke Shaw comes back or Malacia comes back. Then you just look at so many different options. Okay, well, if Dalot finds form there, then when Luke Shaw comes back, because Martinez is looking probably a little bit further away, Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw can then play centre back again. He did a ripper of a job last year. So then you look at our midfield on the thing. We had McTominay back in midfield, which hadn't happened the whole of last year. And McTominay's been very much a servant of United and a servant this year. Like, can't dismiss what he's done. He's pulled points, and he would have done it again on Saturday. But realistically, Casemiro and Amrabat should be there.
Yep. Bruno should be playing 10, not the white wing.
Mount shouldn't be on the pitch. So it should be Amrabat, Casemiro. I'm going to tell you one thing who I think we really miss, and it's Fred.
I miss Fred so much.
I miss Fred as my personal relationship with him, but I also miss Fred the player. Like, we look at so many times last year. Okay, Fred didn't play against the teams that were crap, basically. But
you don't need him as crap.
You know when I look back, think about that Tottenham game last year.
I think about that, but you know what I think about as well?
Where we high pressed the whole game.
What about the Europa League against Barcelona?
Yeah.
Best on the park across two legs because just intercepted. He broke up the play. And you know what? He had a goal in him. He had a goal from midfield. And without Casemiro just to sit.
So that's what I'm hoping Amrabat can take. Bruno go back to his number 10. No piss farting around.
Yeah.
We had no Rashford. And we've all got our opinions on Rashford.
And Garnacho and Pulisic have to play on at the current point in time. Those two as wingers have to play on the wing.
Yep, that's fine.
And then you fix your team, basically.
You fix it. And I think what people don't understand is, so Maguire and Evans, they're putting in very much an effort at the moment. A shift, getting the points. But as we've said so many times, whether they're playing good or bad, they ruin the whole rest of our game style.
The system
if you can end up then putting Luke Shaw there, putting Wan-Bissaka back on, instead of playing Lindelof like a right back, playing Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, the likes of Varane, don't know what's going on there.
Something's sus there,
Because there's no way Varane's not getting picked on form. I think Varane sounds to me like it could be another Ronaldo situation.
That'd be crazy if it is.
But yeah, so it looks like there. I'd even play, like we thought a lot of times, play Luke Shaw and Lindelof.
Yep.
Both a bit faster.
Good duo.
Yep. Dalot, Wan-Bissaka to fix this up. Casemiro and Amrabat, and I'm telling you right now, will start to be a lot more solid. Because we built a lot of our wins last year.
Off defence.
And yeah, we're doing that again this year a little bit. But if we really build it, we'll start to play better and better and better in the attacking part of the game. And we'll be able to start to get results.
That's my point. I think the defence is as important for our attack. And I've said it multiple times with Luke Shaw's impact. But if you get consistency at the back, the system comes back again, and you start playing this system that creates chances, that has possession. Because we haven't really out-possessioned teams to the degree we did last year.
And then you've got to get the people on the bench, like the Antonys and the Mount, and they don't start unless they prove to start.
Yeah, and we can find these bench players that become a bench player rather than be 1 week they're bench player, 1 week they have to start because all what's going on.
Okay, let's take away Amrabat. If I'm going to be completely honest, the way he was playing pre-season, Mainoo's back, he very much could sit next to Casemiro.
I don't know why he's always on the bench, but why doesn't he get minutes as like a holder when he comes on?
I think he just come off. It's the whole trust issue. So Ten Hag wanted to bring him through pre-season.
Yeah.
I reckon he would have started if he brought him through pre-season. But then he goes off. He didn't get enough to see him, and it's just like my job's already a little bit of scrutiny. I don't want to do too many risks and stuff. Yeah. It's the whole reason why he plays Rashford over a Garnacho.
The trust thing,
It's Rashford pulled me out of so many rabbit holes last year.
Yeah.
Whereas Garnacho pulled me out of 1? Maybe 2?
Yeah, a few, not much,
Yeah, so it's a trust issue. So when we look at that, I think United will be okay. Will they finish top 4? No. Because there's 3 teams at least that are way better than them.
I think it will come down to Christmas. If we can keep 6 and close to that 5th spot, I think the 5th spot we're going to need to take, we have to be around that 5th spot. Who else
is back now as well? Abed.
I don't know. He'll be a point off the left or down the middle as an alternate option. As like,
exactly. Like a small lineup. On the right a lot as well.
Yeah, there's options coming back, injuries coming back, which is good for United. I think Christmas time, will prove if we make Champions League or not next season.
If we can stay at last point at 6 till Christmas,
that's where you want to finish
5th.
Yeah, I think you can come through with 5th. Next game, Everton Brighton is the other one I watched as well. Great game. Everton looking very, very good again. Mikalenko scored. He looked bloody stunned that he scored as well. So quite funny. The ball rebounded back to me. Struck in the back of the net. Brighton were peppering, but again, similar to Burnley, obviously not in that degree, but just had a lot of just like meaningless possession. Like just side to side, they had 80% possession in this game and just did nothing really with it. McNeil had probably the only chance for Everton in the second half, just showing how much the ball Brighton had. Obviously, Ferguson didn't have quite the same game because he wasn't really delivered that ball to him. Obviously, I was talking about it with you guys in the group chat. Lewis Dunk scored one of the greatest volleys of all time off the crossbar, which is offside. Clinical first time finish there. Oh, I'm pissed that was ruled out offside because I had Dunk in my FPL.
Oh, wow.
Which really annoyed me. But then, obviously, Matoma sets up the goal again. He was probably their best outlook. I think from this game, we're just finding out, like we said earlier, Brighton is going to slow down a little bit. But for Everton, I think what you touched on a few weeks ago, they'll be fine because they'll find that form. They'll find that Dyche form. They'll find that Dyche form already.
Well, yeah, one thing I've realised from the season is there seems to be the Premier League, and it hasn't hit it yet because between the top and the middle, it's still... But I think there's going to be a period in about another 5-6 weeks where there's going to be a top 8.
Yep.
Then there's going to be a massive middle group, and we've already seen the bottom 4 branch off.
So
the bottom 4 have already branched off, and I think United and Chelsea are going to tuck into the lower ends of the top 8.
I hope so, yeah.
With Villa there as well.
Yep.
We've already know of a top 5 at the moment.
Yep.
And then the top 5 will be a little bit obviously higher than those next 3, but those next 3 will be grasping on with the slitherest of rope.
To hope to get Champions League.
With hope.
Yeah.
So, and then I think those next teams like the Brightons, the West Hams, the Nottingham Forest, the Crystal Palace will just slide to open a little bit of a gap.
Their own sort of bracket, yeah.
Will it be miles off? No. If like one of those teams from above have a bad period, they'll be back in the race.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I think that will open up a little bit of bracket, like a 4 or 5 point gap.
And don't get me wrong, Brighton could swing things around, but the first time in a while, it feels like they haven't won. They've won 3 games out of win, struggling a little bit on the road. And obviously, Thursday nights catch up with you. We all know that, especially with their thin squad. So, an interesting next few weeks coming up for Brighton. Oh, actually, once again, and Lewis Dunk, another free kick that was saved by Pickford top corner. Like, this guy, can take some serious free kicks. So, 5 games without win for Brighton, and struggling a little bit at the current point in time. The next game, Man City, Bournemouth. As we all know now, I don't watch Man City games, so I've seen the highlights. The big thing coming out of Doku just absolutely went crazy. A goal and 4 assists.
It's just crazy to me because although I knew Doku was a good player, actually the first time I remember seeing Doku, had no clue who he was.
Yeah, and that was at Euros, wasn't it?
Yeah, Euros, Italy versus Belgium, and I remember he was their most dangerous player on the pitch.
Yep.
It was some like 19, 20-year-old at the time. He was only playing in the Belgium league at that point, so he hadn't even gone over to France yet. Yep. And I remember seeing him, and I was like, when Italy were 2-0 up, I remember to this day that I was like, if anyone's doing anything, it's him. He was skipping past players. He just at that point didn't look like he had the final.
And that's what we're sort of seeing now,
Wow, though, because under a Pep system, he's like that Raheem Sterling type.
He's such a different player. He's the Sane, he's the Sterling, it's the guys that haven't worked. But you know what?
But they haven't. You say they haven't worked, but it's just the side guys that haven't. They still get a lot of output.
Well, they get a lot of output, but you get it at City. But Pep doesn't like this player. But Pep's just, brought this guy along.
I know.
And you know what? He has that pass in him, though. We saw in this game, that little feed through to Foden for the 4th City goal.
Yep.
Obviously got lucky with one of the shots hitting Akanji and going in that. Whatever, but it counts for it all. But just finding the passes, even that the step over and skills and cut the ball back to Bernardo Silva.
Because of his pace and his nimbleness and his agility, he's able to take on that player. But when you take on that player, that next player comes, and because he's so quick, he's able to get that pass
bang straight away. Yeah,
it's amazing. That's why. Like the speed, and he skips, and then he moves.
He looks so uncoordinated when he does it as well. Looks so small to the ground and looks so wide, but he just super good. We talked about it at the start of the day about momentum runs, and Man City get back to that sort of time. They just once they get one, they get many. At the 30th minute, 33rd, the 37th, in the first half of them, and 64th, 75th, and 80th. So they just pile on goals in clumps. Man City are back at their bed, top of the Premier League now after what happened with Tottenham. And a very impressive game. Obviously, Bournemouth can't do much about it. That's the way it is at Etihad at the moment. Let's quickly go to the FPL roundup. What a weekend. This is one of the toughest weekends for FPL fans.
I did terrible again.
I had an absolute rotter. 22 points myself.
27.
Yeah,
and I had Haaland and Maddison.
Well, I had Maddison.
Everyone obviously has them, but it was quite... I would say the person that saved me again is just Trippier. He's been...
Everyone in that league you well had Trippier.
I held tight on him.
Yeah, it's come good.
Through the early stages when everyone was going, oh, he's so expensive. But he went and got that 15 or 18 pointer.
So, against the Sheffield, yeah. I made things work. Once again, my bench is better than my on-field. I got Nana with 6 on the bench. I fielded Leno, thinking that he'd make so many saves.
I had Rashford on the bench. I should have obviously got rid of him, but I've had so many problems with my team that I've had to do so many
trades.
Well, defender problems. I've had the likes of Estupiñán, Diego Carlos from the start of the season, stuff like that.
I've still got Ake as one of my City players, and I benched him because I never know what happens with Pep Roulette. He goes and gets 9 points because he gets a late winner.
Yeah, wow.
Late winner, late 6 goal. I have Huang, who only got 5, but he's been on fire in recent weeks. Obviously, I have Maddison, I have Son. It's still not too bad, but considering the person in Sheffield United, I thought he'd bag a few. I had Diaby, Watkins, and Cash, thinking they'd chop up against Forest. They stunk against Forest. Lewis Dunk was on 9, but his goal was overturned. So he went back to 1. Yeah, tough week for fantasy, man. I still am in 7th in our league. Still, me and Flynn both got 22, so I'm still 1 point behind him. But yeah, tough week. Unless you had Newcastle players this weekend, no one really did well, it seems, in the world of fantasy. The next game, again, didn't see much of it. I saw the short game of this. Sheffield United 2, Wolves 1. Obviously, a massive result for Sheffield United. They get their first win of the season. You can stop with all those winless stats. First, what a goal for Archer.
Yep.
From like 30 yards, just banged it.
Since his first game, that first game he played, he got a goal, and I think it was like an own goal.
Against Everton, was it? Was it that game?
Yeah, he had a goal and like an own goal.
Yeah.
I think that was the game they drew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Everton.
2-2.
Yeah, I think it might have been Everton, yeah.
And he was like brilliant. So
he's a finisher, right? When the ball's at his feet, he just knows how to hit the ball. Like he has that. In this game, he's got the swaz, like it went up and then just dipped.
He reminds me of like a Rashford. Like he doesn't do too much, but when he gets that ball, like he hits it so perfectly. Like he hits the valve of the ball, and it's so dangerous when you can do that.
It's giving off like I think it's going to be a weird comparison, but sort of like that Origi sort of presence on the field, but then like that finishing of like a Berbatov or like one of those like a Harry Kane, where they just hit the ball so hard and God knows what's going to happen with it.
Yeah.
But he has that sort of like aura around him where he's like that Origi where like whenever he's on, and whenever the ball goes near him, something's going to happen because like obviously the ball doesn't get up there much, but whenever it is up there with him at his feet, like God knows, he just like creates things. And it was one of those goals, like it was a long throw, it deflected off somebody, it landed his feet, took one touch and just hit it. And it just ended up landing in the back of the net. So, yeah, big goal for him. Obviously, the winner comes in the 100th minute. Norwood penalty. Fabio Silva, the poor bloke, can't do a thing right at the moment. Brings down, who was a Bulldog in the box. Penalty goal scenes. And a tough for Wolves. Like, they played some good football. They weren't at their best. But, like, that's a game you thought you'd book in for them.
Well, it's just tough in the aspect of they've had such good weeks backing up in the last 5-6 weeks, and you'd think, okay, we're going to continue this week, move out. Like, although they are well and truly out of the bracket of like relegation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They could have really cemented themselves like into their like 10-point.
Yeah, where you get
margin.
6 points on Sheffield United,
and really start to look at the likes of the West Hams and the Nottingham Forest.
Yeah,
and
it's tough that in that sense, and especially for Gary O'Neill, who's. Maybe it is a bit of fatigue thing. They've gone for like 4 weeks. They've just done incredible result after incredible result. They're a bit fatigued, and you lose Neto. And it's a tough one for them.
It is a hard loss to lose Neto, especially after what he's done. I think he's got 7 assists
and the best chance creation in the Prem. So tough one for them. The next game's Newcastle Arsenal. Now we've basically talked about the game without talking about the whole game throughout the episode. Obviously Newcastle win 1-0, controversial goal or not. They get a big result for themselves. I wish Arsenal win it for our sake to keep United close to Newcastle, but they get back amongst that top 4 contention race. Weird game, yellow cards galore. It also kicked off at half time. Yeah. Like, is it what you want to? Here's probably where I want to come from as my summary of the game. Is it where you want to come from when you go to Newcastle, getting the crowd involved? Absolutely not. Things like what Havertz were doing and that poor challenge, and then they all kicked off. You don't want to do that in Newcastle. You don't want to get the fans involved. You want to keep that place as quiet as possible. You want to keep the game as boring as possible to do well. I think that's the best way to try and do well there. And if you get the crowd involved at halftime and it all sort of kicks off, then with the goal, it's just like, I think the key to winning at Newcastle or doing well at Newcastle is just play a smart game. When you leave the refs no opportunity to intervene, you leave the fans no opportunity to get behind their team, and that's the way you go about it. But with dodgy yellows and poor challenges and, getting the crowd involved, and all of a sudden the refs are involved, it's just asking for disaster. Like, Arsenal played a good game of football.
Yeah.
They probably were the better of the two sides, but we know, I keep saying week after week, it is so hard to go to Newcastle right now to win. It's just, you might get a draw, but to win there is almost like very, very hard, like impossible.
I know this is a bit off the Arsenal-Newcastle game, but do you think that the Premier League, based off all these teams stealing points off each other, is going to be a lot low scoring, more towards the traditional Premier League years?
I still think because of the City ability and the fact that Arsenal have to follow them, those two will separate themselves. But the rest, I feel like it'll be a really, like you said, really chunky middle.
Yeah.
And that next group won't be much above that chunky middle. And I think by the end of it, obviously we'll get that same sort of structure where it's like 2, 3, 2, and then the rest sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the point gap differentials between these sort of groups will be much less than we think.
Maybe not a City, but it's looking like Arsenal are dropping enough points. Like,
yeah.
Unless City drop with them,
yeah,
they're going to go by themselves. Or, in my opinion, it's going to be a lot. I don't mean necessarily that Arsenal and City aren't going to be at the top by 5, 6, maybe even 10 points. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to be one of these seasons where you need anywhere near 100 points.
Oh, not 100, but I think you'll still be in the low 90s. I think you'll be looking at
I reckon late 80s wins you it. So like an 89.
I tell Arsenal fans would take you here and that. I think they can get that.
I reckon a late 80 wins you it.
Well, if Arsenal going to win it at City as well, then you're looking at a low.
The reason I say that is
high 80s.
So the City Newcastle game, was that at Etihad?
Yeah.
Yep.
They got
so they still got to go to Newcastle.
Yep.
You know what happens when United play?
Yeah.
You don't know. Like, that depends what United actually turns up.
Yeah.
You got to go to Anfield.
I say that's the biggest one, Anfield at the moment.
So both of those, you not getting points, in my opinion, and you still got to go, and you still got to verse Arsenal again.
There's points there to be grabbed, but
that's what I'm saying.
City are just that team, though, man. And Arsenal, I feel like by default, I have to go with them, so they'll just be pushed on and on and on. So I still think those two teams are getting you 90 points, but maybe the rest,
So I'm more on the anticipation that those two teams will hit between 85 and probably 91.
Yeah, okay, I can agree with that to an extent.
And
but
then the next team will hit 77.
That's a big drop. I think Liverpool better than that. I think Liverpool closer than that.
Third with 77, 78 is a lot of points for third.
I know, but actually the drop. But yeah. I think Liverpool are still very, but
Liverpool
good.
Again would. There's enough games that they'll drop points. It's not that hard to drop points in the current Premier League the way it is. Like,
you're not wrong.
You also look at the likes of like Brighton and stuff. Although they don't turn up every week, if they turn up on the right week, they pull off some unreal games. Even like the likes of Brentford.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the key to form they're in. I think the biggest thing for Arsenal is it showed again when they don't have Odegaards or those superstar players, had Jorginho in the game playing, that Havertz playing, you start to feel the pinch a bit.
Yeah.
And we all thought they fixed their depth problems, but and I know you're playing one of the better teams in the competition, but seeing Jorginho, Havertz in there, it just didn't feel quite right. To be honest, it felt a bit empty in that midfield, felt a bit hollow. They didn't look at their best. The chance creation wasn't the same. Eddie up front, once again, flopped in a big game. That's the worrying sign for me for Arsenal. That's the worrying thing that they might fall away from City, because if they can't keep these guys healthy, because they kept most of those guys healthy last year for the most part until the end, but it also fell apart.
Yeah.
And that's where they got their points. But you see now the odd game where Odegaard sits out with injury or suspension, or you see other guys drop out. Maybe Rice picks up a suspension. It's just not the same with Jorginho, with Havertz in there. And I think that's the biggest thing I picked up for Arsenal's standpoint in this game.
If you actually look at the drop off, the likes of Jorginho and Havertz are like a Champions League winner, a Premier League winner, another Champions League winner. But
for the Arsenal quality they play.
For Arsenal. But I just don't know. In terms of the quality of the bench players, I don't think there's a problem with it. I think they're just not currently working.
Yeah, okay. I know, yeah.
So, I don't think you're ever going to get people on the bench that are, better players.
No. But I think system-wise, Jorginho probably isn't the greatest fit now. I just don't think he's the right... The Fabio Vieira's, that's probably more I'm liking, that sort of stuff. But fact you're starting Havertz and Jorginho's your captain, and just like, I don't know. And the striker thing's still a problem. If Antony's there, I think they have to try and get that. They'll just spend the big bucks. If you want to go, if there's still a chance to win it in Jan, splash on Tony, because Eddie's your backup striker. Nah. He's a cult figure.
It just looks to me as how are you just going to keep splashing it until like.
But they haven't really they haven't gone ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
I know Rice is big money. What? Who else they signed this summer? They got Havertz for 50, 60. That's probably a waste. But Saliba was money well spent. Timber was money. Well, that's a bargain for Timber when he comes back, I think. Raya was cheap.
Yeah, I just think
they haven't really splashed the cash yet.
I just think Tony, to me, reminds me a lot of the likes of a prime like Danny Ings.
I think he's a bit better than that.
Danny Ings was kicking you 20 goals a year for 3-4 seasons on the run.
Tony's got more than just being that fox in the box, so he can take the ball in. He can make for himself.
I just don't know if you go spend and splash 100 million on Tony.
It won't be 100 though, I don't think, because Brentford have to sell because they know he's going to go anyway.
Nah.
I think you get him for 85.
Oh, nah. If you get him for 85, fair play. But I think if you're touching that 100 mark, there's
I'm probably not going to get him for 100.
I'd wait till the end and try go all in for Osimhen, who's a little bit off form this year, who you can probably steal for 100. The same price.
If they're in it this year, though, you have to go Tony, I think. I think you have to.
Maybe.
Because, and again, he probably won't be the starting striker. He'll be the backup to Jesus when Jesus is fit. But it's just that Jesus is fit like one game every month. So I think you just have to go get Tony. That's the biggest thing for me in that game. Obviously, big win for Newcastle. They consolidate that spot there in the top 4. My next one, Forest 2, Villa 0. Again, we touched on a fair bit. Villa, another one of those teams from Europe that I think maybe just a bit off it in this game, similar to West Ham last week versus Everton. Not quite at the races. The biggest thing out of it, that Forest, back at home again, similar to Brentford, looking really, really good at home. They've gone now this extended period of time without losing at home. They've gone some like ridiculous home record, which I'll get up here. But yeah, Toffolo comes in.
If you do look at those, though, the 4 of, I think it's the 8 or 9 games.
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, 3 draws.
4 of the 9, go look at the teams there.
I know, but
I think 2 of them got relegated and 2 of them have just come up.
Yeah, and I get that, but still, it's points, it's consistency, it's home form, it's what I know Forest for. I know it for that stuff. They go and beat Brighton last season. They beat Southampton in the 4-3 Classic. They beat Arsenal obviously 1-0. Sheffield United 2-1. Burnley 1-1. Brentford 1-1. Luton 2-2. And the 2-0 win over Aston Villa.
Well, it definitely is along the lines of what I was saying last year, end of last season, that I think the players that they have, they need to be doing a lot better, and they will eventually do a lot better. It's like the ones when we talk about the Burnleys of the world, and we talk about a lot of other teams who eventually will click. And I think it's even on a small aspect like the Chelsea, when you got so many players coming in, you can't just expect like, you just go and click.
Yeah.
Like usually 90% of successful teams have, well, you go look at the Cities and the Arsenals, have maximum 2 inclusions to your starting 11. Maximum. And I'm going to be honest, 2 inclusions is big. You usually have 1.
And 2 throws things around. It takes time to adjust, let alone having these 6 players coming to starting lineup and 17 coming to the changing room.
So if they can gel, which they are starting to do, they definitely can push themselves up towards at least 10th.
I think they'll be around there, that 9th to 12th, I think they'll fit just perfectly in there. And that'll be a good season for them if they get that position. I think, home form's a big thing for them. And this counter-attacking style they're developing, obviously Villa, it's the first time we've seen them get caught out in the counter a lot. They just got countered deluxe in this game. They couldn't stop it. Cash aimed a little bit off it. The centre-backs were just a bit slow to react at times, and they got done in for that. But if Forest can continue to make games in this sort of mould where they just counter-attack teams and have the opportunity when they're at home, maybe play a bit more in possession, but go away and just use your pace, use Elanga, use Hudson-Odoi, use Awoniyi, use Gibbs-White. All these are guys that are just pacey up front. And their midfield is really just like the robust guys that sort of break up the play. Dominguez, Mangala, they're not really your offensive, creative types. So you're going to have to play on the counter-attack. So unless they make a change in that midfield, maybe bring a Ryan Yates in as well, who's probably still really workmanlike, but still, you've got a lot of just bustle about, create some chaos in the midfield, and just long ball, like through ball, and just let these guys chase. Like Alanga's been really good for them this year. Gibbs White's found some form. We obviously know how good a one you started the season. That's your blueprint, and that will get you 9th to 12th. We know Palace are in that position right now,
exactly.
And that's been their blueprint for the last 4 to 5 games, and probably for the rest of the season. So I think the only thing to finish off on this game is Martinez with a very, very interesting week. Obviously, wins the best keeper in the world, then palms one over his head.
That definitely is a mistake.
Yeah.
But I don't know how bad of a mistake. Okay,
It's poor. It's
poor, definitely.
But it's not... I think people are blowing out of proportion a little bit. Yeah.
He's gone and saved it, which he has. He's just hit the wrong part of his hand where it should have went that way, and it's gone up.
I think the only thing is people feel like it's like soft palms a little bit. It hasn't really gone firm with it, because once when you go firm, it can at least bounce like a Nana does. When it bounces the other way, it goes back into play. But it's almost like, again, a bit wrong position, but also soft hands.
Like if that's hit him like more towards the wrist.
Yeah.
I didn't have a close up. Like
I haven't got a close up either.
I didn't zoom into the video.
But it just feels like it's with like soft hands a little bit that he's allowed to sort of shoot up. It's an awkward moment. It's just considering what's happened in the week as well.
No, I know. But if you look at the mistakes the other keepers have made, I think it's a huge mistake. But it's hit the wrong part of his glove. It hasn't gone through his hand, and it's unluckily bounced backwards. If that's just gone up, he gets up and saves it.
Yeah, and he probably would. It's just that, the week that Messi wins the Ballon d'Or, and people argue for Haaland, and then Martinez wins the Golden Glove, which he should have, but again, it's the sort of relation to Messi, and then everyone's on his back because he makes a mistake. It's just poor timing and a poor game as well, because that was like the one and only game at the current point in time. So the whole of England watching it. So unlike him there, I know Aston Villa would bounce back, but it's just a worrying sign that it's the first time we see them being counter-attacked and counter-attacked badly. So hopefully they can adjust to that. We'll quickly touch on this game because I want to get into depth in the final game before we run out of time. Luton won, Liverpool won, and out of all the relegation teams, Luton played how I expect them to play this season. They looked really, really good on the counter-attack. They obviously didn't have near the amount of possession or the shots on target, but every time they attacked, it was similar to what we talked about a few weeks ago with United and City. Every time United attacked, it was like a big deal. Similar to this game with Luton. Every time Luton went forward and counter-attacked Liverpool, you're like, are they going to score? What's going to happen here? They had some nice chances. Obviously, the goal comes from Chong, one of those younger guys that was mixed in with the old blokes. But yeah, a good game for Luton. Like, this is what I wanted from them. At home, make it hard for the big teams. Be a pest. Play the counter-attacking style. Ride your luck a little bit. Obviously, Nunes with like 10 shots on goal. Still couldn't bag one of them. My Nunes prediction is not looking as good now. But Liverpool were creating. Trent looked ridiculous. Some great balls into the box. But obviously, if Luis Diaz is on the field rather than Nunes or Jota, they probably go and win this game 3-0 the way he finishes the ball.
Yeah. Well, I think just from the Luton point of view, they've just recognised a sustainable blueprint that works in the Premier League when you don't have a team that is
nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, so especially when you have a team that's fighting relegation, like not even fighting relegation, but you have a team that's not of the quality really for Premier League, your only chance stands from finding a blueprint, which I'll call Sean Allardyce. Not Sean Allardyce.
Sean Allardyce. Yeah, good. Combine the two names there. That's what it
is. Sean Dycheball.
Yeah, Sean Dycheball. And it is. And you know what it is? It's going to be riding their luck because they rode their luck this game. They rode their luck against Wolves. They got lucky away against Everton. And all these games they've gotten results in, they've just rode their luck.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, it's not a handball against Barkley, but the whole lead up to the goal is the ball hits Barkley's arm. I know he's not looking at it, but again, like that one day that could be a VAR penalty. In the end, they go down the other end. Barkley, again, old and new. Barkley takes the ball up, plays to Kabore to Chong. Again, it's this whole mix of young and old. And it might work having this mix. These old guys hopefully can mentor these young dudes and get them up there. But for Liverpool, obviously a massive point secured in the end. It was looking really, really bleak. And then Diaz, obviously the week he's had, massive goal for him. But again, every time this guy plays, you just realise how much Liverpool miss him when he's not there.
Yeah, what a player.
It's clinical.
When he gets on the park, he's definitely, at the moment, definitely their most dangerous. But otherwise, apart from Salah, usually. But yeah, he just seems to always be a threat. Whether it's in the air, like in the box, he's a pest.
Absolute animal.
Yeah, even like around, he's also got the Doku dribble.
Yeah,
finish with a finishing product. The pests in the box.
Yeah. And he's got the heading ability of like a 6'4" striker.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's got everything. And I love watching him play because him and Salah together, whether they be on the flanks or whether they play this sort of system where they try and tuck in a little bit more, they're just like one of the two best. Again, they can be wingers that cross the ball in, but they can also, get on the back of a cross and get the ball in the back of the net. But hopefully he starts next week if all goes well with everything going on in his life. But super performance for him. And I guess finishing all off, Luton had a chance in the 101st minute, so they could have won it in the end. Yeah. So Liverpool, I think, would just be happy to get a point, get the hell out of there, and dodged a really big bullet. That brings us to the game of the weekend. Tottenham 1, Chelsea 4. Now, I've got a few lines I want to run through just to summarise the game, and then we can talk about everything that happened. So Spurs goal, 6th minute, Kulusevski gets a deflection in. Jackson misses an early chance of a poorer mistake, which he probably should have scored off in I think it was the 8th minute. Then Johnson found Son. Son scored in the 13th minute, but it was offside by like a shoulder width. Yeah. Udogie gets a yellow card that could have been a red for a studs-up challenge. I don't think it was a red, but people were saying it could have been. Sterling thought he scored in the 21st minute, but it was given handball. 27th minute, Caicedo scores. However, the ball was brought back, but then reverted back to Romero's challenge. It was a red card. He was sent off, and a Cole Palmer penalty, which was scored in the 35th minute, so 8 minutes later. Tottenham still were looking good, but then Maddison goes down injured, and Van der Ven go down injured in the space of like 3 minutes. Both very obviously the hamstring for Van der Ven, but obnoxious for Maddison, so God knows how long he's out for. After half-time, Udogie makes a poor challenge and side tackle Sterling. He gets sent off for a second yellow. Jackson then misses an absolute sitter in the 56th minute. Vicario makes some incredible saves from like the 50th minute to like the 70th minute and holds Tottenham together. Obviously, they're down to 9 men at this current point in time. He makes a great one-on-one save versus Cook around the 68th minute. Spurs had a great chance with Eric Dyer in the 79th minute where he scores, but it's deemed offside again by a 20th margin. And then all of a sudden, Jackson gets at the click. He scores 3 goals, basically all in added time. Bentancur misses a chance in the 94th minute, which he could have tapped in to make it 2-2. It was just, absolute game of chaos. I have not obviously done it justice with that, but I have to run through everything that happened because this game from minute 1 to minute 100 and whatever it was just had drama galore. Yeah. Like, obviously it's tough for Spurs, but I think the one thing I want to say is all credit to them. Like I said at the start of the show, they continue to play their attacking style of brand. They weren't going to change. They've had 10 men, they had 1 man, they had 6 men.
I just never seen anything like it. Like, even that free kick they had, they were 3 meters from the what was their plan was, we're faster than them. That's pretty much their plan.
Let's try and play the highest offside trap possible, and it just didn't work, but...
And then their plan was as well, if you put the ball into the space, Vicario's going to be running.
He comes out like a beast and just saves the ball with his head, with his legs, with his hand. Oh,
yeah. So ridiculous. Basically they put that high line and Vicario is waiting on like the edge of his box to sprint out. So unless you just touch it over, but then if you do, it actually is very tactically smart because the thing is, so let's say you put a through ball through to one of your players. Yep. He then has to run 30 meters. You got Vicario come the other side. So
no chance.
If he gets a good enough pass that it's just in the step of like the Chelsea player. Yeah. He's then got another like 30, 40 metres to go. So let's say, and that's as if he makes the perfect pass because Vicario is going to pounce on any little error.
Mistake he's there.
And then for the 30, 40 metres that you have to run, you're telling me that not one player from Tottenham is going to catch up?
Yeah, ridiculous. And you know what I want to say is I've had a go at a lot of keepers this year, but I think that's the best keeping performance I've seen this season. Like that was save after save after save. And I saw his social media tweet and it was Instagram post. It was actually quite cool. Like you say, I've never been a part of a game that was so ridiculous that the fans are clapping us off and cheering our names of 4-1 down at the end of a game. Because it was one of those games where like everyone knew that Tottenham were the better team, I think, head and shoulders. Yeah. And it was one of those games that just got so unlucky. There was some rookie mistakes from Udogie, some rough calls for Romero. Obviously, it probably is a red, but again, it's just unlucky the way he didn't mean to do that. It's
just the way Romero plays, but he's always going to be under the spotlight in terms of like his tackles and stuff.
He didn't mean to do that. Like it was it was going for the ball.
But it's just how he plays that he's going to get himself into those situations.
It's in the Casemiro sort of things. That, like the name and the history and the way they tackle. They just are prone to get red cards.
Another person to put him like against is like the likes of a Pepe.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's the same thing.
He just goes in and doesn't care. Has no care in the world. And his whole focus is ball, I win.
Yeah. Ball, in syllables like that. Ball, I win. Yeah.
I don't care how.
Yeah.
I win that ball.
Yeah.
Which is a great, as Andrew said so much, you'd love that from a defender. But the thing is, you also get some, like, you're also going to be on the other end as well. Yeah. When you have a defender like that. You've seen it so many times with United, when you had the people like that, like the likes of the Roy Keanes and the Manjovićes of the world, who didn't give a crap about the player or anything. If they couldn't win the ball, they win the man. And
that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
It was that sort of mentality. So the game was obviously hard for Spurs. They lose injuries, they lose suspensions. I just want to rattle off the next few games. So it's not an easy run. They go away to Wolves next. They play Aston Villa at home following that. Then they got City away and then West Ham at home before Newcastle home.
So for them to be a good team and still up there fighting, what do you think they have to take there?
I think they have to win, obviously, against Wolves away. But again, no easy feat.
I think them taking 7 points is bad from those 3 games.
I'd want them to take 9. I'd expect them to win against West Ham. You'd expect them to beat Villa at home just because I know Villa are good, but again, it's a home.
But if they took 7, do you think that's steadying their progress?
I think then you readjust and you think top 4 is our goal now. And obviously it is still now, but right now you still think we're amongst the title race. So you have to think that way, right? But if you don't get 9 points from these games, obviously you lose points to probably Newcastle and City. You separate yourself from that sort of top 3 all of a sudden, and then you're looking at, let's just get Champions League or top 4.
Yeah, okay.
And this is me
being
optimistic.
What happens if they were to get 8 points and draw to City and draw to someone else?
Or if they get the points from the Newcastle and City games, that's a win because you're not losing.
Newcastle.
That's the 5th game out of the 5.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I want 9 points.
You're saying 9
out of 5.
No, I was saying 7 from their first 4.
Oh, okay, I'll take that. So I'll take that. Yeah. But again, that means you're dropping points to a non-City game.
Yeah.
I think you have to take the points against every team but Newcastle and City. And if you can get 1 point from those 2 games, so you make it 10 points, then you're not well and truly, but you're amongst the title race again. You're not slipping away. And because Maddison looks like he should be gone for maybe 2 weeks, I think, because Ange said it was precautionary, but the fact he went down in his own is a bit of a worry. Obviously, Van de Ven looks like a pretty serious hamstring. That's 5 to 6 weeks minimum. So he misses all these games because he didn't got international break in between these games. So he probably missed that bulk. You miss the City game with Romero. Your doggy obviously misses next game. It's Wolves, but they should be able to adjust for that. But this is, once again, we've been saying for the first, 10 weeks, let's see how they do without some of these players. This is our test. Obviously, their depth is not good, but we want to see how they play. Yeah,
hopefully Ange's put on all the players his philosophy and stuff to a degree that they can still play, seen by the Dezerbis of the world.
Yeah.
Are they going to be as good? No, but they're still training with all the players. There's still quality players that you'd think after 6 months of training with Ange that you would be able to, a degree, play the game style that he wants, especially with a lot of them playing as substitutes in a lot of the games.
Yeah.
So especially when you look at the likes of the Højbjergs of the world, maybe I think the hardest one's going to be the Van
de Ven, because you've got Eric Dyer playing centre back now.
Yeah, so that's going to be the hardest one. I think Emerson Royale fits it fine. Again, he's another one of those players that's good in attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and he's already played this season.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
The team,
so he fills that role fine. Even in the cam position, I think they'll feel that one way or another.
Bentancur can be pushed up higher if he has to
exactly.
be.
Or even the likes of maybe Richarlison might play there.
Play like a false striker almost.
I think they'll deal with that all right.
It's
no Maddison, but I think the biggest drop-off is going to be
centre back.
Eric Dyer can't play the game style you want.
Not enough pace.
Yeah, no training
ball
is
playing
changing that. It's like Maguire wouldn't be able to... no matter what game style you do, Maguire's not going to play the Pep Arteta, Postecoglou ball that we're looking at. The ball where you see, that exact example
the line on the
Dyer
halfway.
and Maguire, which are very similar players, with that line.
Yeah, no chance.
What are they going to do?
No chance.
They have to call the bus and wait for the bus to come. Then they might make it there quicker if they call the bus.
And yet again, nothing against them as players. Their physicality just doesn't suit.
They're low block players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ketterers.
That's why Maguire was so good into Fulham. A little touch on Chelsea. The fact they still get memed after winning the Derby, this just goes to show where they're currently at. Jackson hitting a Sue and hitting the Rashford celebration amongst his celebrations was hilarious. Obviously big for him to score the hat-trick, but again, he's scoring one-on-ones that if he misses that, God help him.
Yeah, it's still good for him there. He's got 5 goals in his first 10 Premier League games.
You take that.
And I know some of them, like this game here, he scored a hat-trick. But if you were 10 games in, he saw Jackson scored 5 goals, all Chelsea fans would have been happy.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it's good. Hopefully he kicks on. Well, probably not hopefully from a United point of view.
But hopefully the Premier League viewpoint, from Neutral's viewpoint,
he kicks on, like... But yeah, I still think that he's just reminding me too much of a Nunes. That he's always going to be like, oh yeah, he'll have a big game because he's got the quality, but he's just so inconsistent.
Yeah, we in this game. The first half, he missed some sitters in front of goal. There's no
consistency there. It's like with Nunes, like he in the Europa League Carabao Cup midweek. He missed finish. That. He takes on two people, hits the post. Then like. Oh no, that was 2 games back, wasn't it?
No, that was midweek. No, this was midweek as well, but he missed an open goal or something like that.
Yeah.
And then scores this banger curler, top bins.
Oh yeah, and he had a bad touch, picks it up, scores a top bins. 2 weeks back, like, took on the keeper, lucky Gravenberch was there, and then you got on the weekend, like, that goal there, if he scores that, they win.
Yeah. Change the game. And they score that early as well. They probably go 4 or 5 and you're like...
Yeah, like, Salah there would have wished he had Robin Barr. He had Firmino back, but...
but finishing Chelsea, the upside's still there. It's just... challenging to see where they still look poor in a game where they've played 9 men. That's the only worry for me. But I think they will come good. Good to see Enzo back. Enzo made a bit of a difference at midfield. Yep. Reece James back as well at full back, looking fit again, which is good as well.
He's looked fit so many times, so it's a bit of a worry.
Touch wood for my predictions and Premier League predictions. But yeah, the interesting game. A lot happened, but Chelsea will take the points. They're now still shadowing United again. It's that 2-point gap back again. Yep. But yeah, that wraps up the week's games. Let's go to winners and losers to finish us off. I'm going to go with a different winner just to make it different. I'm going with Brentford. Obviously, 3 wins in the bounce. Play good football at home, partly because it helps my predictions out a little bit. I love Thomas Frank. I love that system. Hopefully, Tony stays and comes back and they can push for like a 9th maybe this season. But good to see them back in the wins and playing that Brentford style of football we used to last season.
My winner's Luton.
Yep.
Yeah, just from... if you look at the 3 teams that have come up, you probably at this point in time would have thought that they were the worst off. They were definitely going down.
Yeah.
Well, that was everyone's predictions. Them or Sheffield for sure.
Yeah.
No one had Burnley, but it was them or Sheffield. And logically thinking, it should have been Luton.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So the fact that they've got so much hope, so much hype around them at the moment, taking points off Liverpool, showing that they're trying to build their home ground there as a fortress. So it's such a positive on their level. Are they going to stay up? Probably not. No. But like... there's such good signs that if they can continue to use the ground as a fortress, every now and again a point away from home.
Have to do that.
Wow. Yeah. They could stay up.
That's why I said at the start. That was their blueprint. They have to get the odd win at home, and these are the results where they get points at the big team, and then go away to like a Wolves or go away to like a Crystal Palace and nick a point.
Exactly.
And they've already done it against Forest. They nicked a point against Forest. So since I guess the first 5 weeks, if you just look at the last 6 block as an individual thing, it's looking positive, right?
Yep,
and doing really good. The losers, I'm going to say and not describe because we talk about the Kingdom Come, VAR and referees, and that's it. That's my losers from the weekend. Yourself?
Mine?
Yep.
Tottenham.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. Describe it, but I get where you're coming from.
And it's not Tottenham in terms of Ange's position, Ange's coaching ability, poor performance or anything. I just think that whatever we've been saying over the last couple of weeks has come into like fruition.
Yeah, perfect word.
They've got the injuries now, and now they've got to go, hey, now let's show them. Who knows, but Ange proved us wrong already of what he's done. Let's see if he can prove us again.
Could do it.
Hopefully he does, and I'll come back next week.
Clap an Ange.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny the fact I'm rooting for them so hard. Like I was rooting for them watching that game back so hard, but...
I think as well, I know a lot of fans are rooting for Tottenham, even if they are of a rival club, but as United fans, we've never had any...
Big blood against Tottenham. Yeah.
So we're definitely going to jump on the bandwagon at that point.
Good A, mate, to Kingdom Come. I love a bit of good A, mate, there. That wraps us up. Good episode. Hopefully next week we're all here together because I want to try and get that weekly, left back next week. So we'll try to do left back rankings in the Prem next week. A massive show again because I think we have that week and then we've got international break. So we've got a big week to discuss some Prem stuff. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, a bit of a longer one, 120 this time around. But thanks for sticking with us. Keep supporting the channel. I'm seeing a few new subscribers day after day with the content. So if you're new, thanks for joining in. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you for another video and another podcast very, very soon. See you later.